I am DanaJ, founder of Bullies Keep Out and host of La Bella Vida. And today we are here with Chris Avery Bennet. And also, he's a major advocate for BKO as well. And he's also a red carpet socialite known for his heavy red carpet and front row present in New York Fashion Week. And Chris, also, we know that you do many other things, but he's a promoter, he's blogging, he's all over the place. He's just an all around great guy. But we would have to take up the entire show if we listed all the things that he does. So we'll stop there. So thank you for taking the time out of your day and schedule that's very busy to talk to me today.
Thank you.
We are also very happy to have you aboard BKO. It's such an awesome thing to have connected with you, and I know we're both excited about big things that we're doing. So I'm kind of just going to start out with a basic thing that I like to ask everybody when I chat with them. What is it that makes you so passionate about the cause of bullying and hate? And I know that you also have a very intense story behind this too. So why don't we just start with that?
Well, just the whole concept of bullies keep out, like just getting rid of bullies, like there's no need for it, and that's a huge thing for me, specifically because my whole life, even though now I'm doing all this crazy stuff, it even still happens to me. But, my whole life has been all about being bullied and having people put me down when it just wasn't necessary. And I do have quite an exciting story about it. Um, it all started off actually in elementary school, which is the quickest part of the story.
Right.
Um, I was a little bit overweight and completely 90s nerd. Like, I had my jeans with my big white socks tucked over my jeans and my plaid country boy shirt tucked into my jeans with my threaded belt and my Backstreet Boy bowl head cut and Harry Potter glasses. And I thought I was Harry Potter. Uh, so I was teased a lot for that. And then not only because, back then people didn't, at that age group, you don't understand the concept of being gay.
Yeah.
And me being gay, I was a very feminine child, and I would cross my legs and talk with my hands, being Italian as well. And so I had a lot of kids pick on me, being like, "You talk like a girl, you sit like a girl," and it just that was the beginning of people really bothering me. I would come home every day crying from the bus because people were so mean to me, whether the way I looked or the things that I liked or how I talked and just who I was as a person. And then, I kind of between elementary school and middle school, things kind of leveled out a little bit. People are finding themselves a little bit more. And then I entered middle school and everything kind of went back into chaos. I actually I went to Catholic school.
Oh wow.
I had only 1 year. um, but Catholic school is known for being a little strict and not at that time, things are changing now, but at that time it wasn't, again, kosher to be gay.
Absolutely.
And, I was definitely, it wasn't made clear that that was the reason why, but you could tell that that's why the teachers were singling me out and just making my life a living nightmare. Not
Mhm.
all of them, but some of them. I remember I had an English teacher who in particular was horrible. And when, I'd be with the homework that she would give first off, I would be up for 4 hours just doing her work alone. And then she would, come back to me saying that I was stupid and I couldn't write for anything. And it's actually really funny because when I went into high school, I became a writer. um, so that actually does bring me into high school, where high school was really, 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 really tough for me.
Yeah.
I was just accepting the fact that I was gay. I was just coming out of the closet. And, that's hard enough for any gay person to be like, oh, I'm gay. Hello.
Absolutely.
And to do it in a small town, I went to school in a little old Newtown, Connecticut, which is very, very small. A big town, but very small.
Right.
And Newtown High was not the place for me. It started off where there was this group of kids, and I'm remembering not to say the name right now, but there was this one boy, and he was kind of like the head of this group of kids. And not sure if he was totally gay or not, but there is something going on over there. But I don't know what his deal was with me, but he made a point to make my life a living nightmare. Like, it was horrible. I was already fragile enough. I was coming out of the closet.
Yeah.
I was just diagnosed with um, chronic Lyme's disease, which was destroying my body. My mother had just recovered from stage 4 breast cancer. I mean, I had enough going on
Yeah.
just with that alone. And then this kid had to have him and his friends. These kids literally, they followed me around high school. I had them, lock me out of classrooms so that I was late to class. I've had them almost push me down stairwells. I would leave the lunchroom literally like a movie scene, covered in food because they would throw food at me the entire lunch period. They would say things at me in the hallway, and they tormented me. They made their main thing to do in high school was to make me miserable. And it was horrible. So, I went onto MySpace because I needed something to vent myself. I needed to have some sort of an expression to show who I am and,
An
get some
escape.
sort of feedback. I needed to
Yeah.
escape, get positive feedback and, just be welcome somewhere. And so I went onto MySpace and I started writing. I started writing about the things that I was seeing and hearing, like music and entertainment. And um, I actually started getting people to contact me, asking me to do reviews for them for their work because they liked the way that I was reviewing things. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, I'm reviewing things? They're, and they're saying that they want to be featured on my blog. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, what's a blog? I had no clue that what I was doing was
Was-
first off being seen by everybody, but it was actually something that I could start doing professionally. So I ended up making the Make a Difference blog on MySpace, which by the time I shut it down, it had reached somewhere around 4 to 4.5 million.
wow.
And it was my biggest pride. I never dreamed that I was able to do something like that. And then my parents caught me on MySpace, and I was too young.
Uh-oh.
Bye bye.
Yeah, which is a shame though, because that's like some major numbers, you
It
know,
was.
and you were spreading such good content. I mean, like I mean we've discussed, and your story gets how so much more intense than that. But I mean, to do the positive things with it is probably one of the best ways to handle it.
And that was my biggest point of it. Make a difference was to make a difference. I would take these artists, for an example, a friend of mine who goes by the name of Plastic Martyr, who is a transgender model.
Mhm.
And she is amazing, absolutely amazing. And she actually was one of the people that I would do reviews for and, kind of just interview and promote. And just show that this is somebody in the LGBTQA elemental P community.
Right, I know they just keep adding letters. I mean, and everyone's like, I know, like, all my friends in the community, they're like, I don't even really care about the letters anymore. At this point, like, it's really not about letters. It's just about the people. But it's like, it just keeps, like, adding letters.
For all the colors and letters. But I would take people from that community who were making a positive impact in the rest of the community and kind of push it a little bit further and help them interact with people and just help spread the message of making a difference in another person's life. And my slogan back then was, and I still actually sometimes in certain emails will still use this in my signature, make a difference and be the difference. And that's the most important thing because you can make a difference in somebody else's life by, you can do something for them and it'll make a difference in their life. But what's more important is to be that difference in somebody else's life.
Yep.
And that's huge for me.
Hmm.
And then at that point in time, I transferred from MySpace and opened up, just a regular traditional blog and just kept doing the same thing. And, I got sicker and sicker with the Lyme disease that I had, and I wasn't able to go to full-time school because of my being sick and because these kids would not leave me alone. It
Yeah.
was to the point where, I had several suicide attempts where, I tried to hang myself in my closet. I mean, it just the amount of different ways that I had tried at that point was horrible.
Hmm.
And it was because I was so miserable. They called me fat, worthless, ugly. Um, and then they would be like, "Why are you in love with me?" And it's just like, I'm not in love with you. Like, I don't even want to be your friend. Like, I just
Yeah.
want you as far away from me as you can get.
Yeah.
And it was tormenting, body shaming and gay hating. And these people weren't even straight themselves. And it was
I
horrible.
think that's why sometimes they do it. They say that in many cases that they're afraid of their own sexuality themselves. That sometimes you'll find people do that because they see themselves having certain feelings and it just terrifies them. So instead of dealing with it, they take it out on someone else who happens to be gay or lesbian or transgender or whatever it might be. And I think that is, the case, in many instances. And it's sad because, everybody's a victim and then, they almost need help themselves. But to take people and bring them to the brink of where it's so intense that where they want to commit suicide and they're attempting, or it's even a thought is just as serious as attempting, in my opinion, and it's all serious. It's horrific that kids could be so horrific to each other that this is happening.
Yeah. It was terrible. It was really, really, really terrible. I mean, I was pulled out of school because I
What is that?
I'm so sorry.
Are you sideways? It's okay. It's a little fun thing.
I'm in an interview right now.
I'm
I'm
all
getting
sitting here
yelled.
and I'm like, what is that noise?
I can't even hear you now.
Can you hear me?
So I just kept pushing through and pushing through and pushing through. And then I started working with a recording artist who I will not mention. Um, and we worked for years together. We had known each other for even longer, and we'd been very good friends. And excuse me, the beginning of our working together was wonderful. We really excelled. We worked really, really well together. He was the artist. I had already had all of this experience in self-promoting and, learning everything that I had learned from all of my previous experiences. I was ready to kind of jump into the field and do something interesting. So, we would go around New York City and do all these crazy and cool and fun things. And, that I remember my first fashion week. that was incredible. I was walking the red carpet for the first time, and I
Wow.
just couldn't fathom what I was doing. I met the Jonas Brothers at MTV. I mean, it's just like these trips, like I could not wait to go down to New York City. And it was like finally that everything that I have been doing is now actually validated. Nobody believed that these interviews that I was doing and these articles that I was writing were real. They thought I
Right.
was just making it up, but now they saw, I'm actually doing something and I'm documenting it. And that was the biggest difference. I could finally show them, hey, this
L-
is my dream.
Look at me now.
And so things started going really, really well. And then this artist, everything got to his head. And he actually was the worst bully that I ever had. I have never in my life had a single person put me down like he has, speak to me the way he has. I've never even seen anybody treat another human the way that he's treated me. Body shaming again. Could not stop mentioning how fat I was. I couldn't even take a bite, my first bite of dinner in my own house. So, he really did become the biggest bully. I really couldn't do anything, even in my own house. And, I had tried to talk to him about it again and again and again. And every time we talked about it, it started getting a little bit better, and then it got 10 times worse. And then it got to the point where my best friend on the face of the earth had passed away. And this was a little bit over a year ago. And it just hit me like a brick wall. And he passed away while I was down in the city with this artist that I've been friends and working with for years. And he knew, he knew right when I knew. He had zero reaction. And I think that was, maybe it was because he didn't have emotions, or maybe it was just because he just didn't want to show reaction. And that was fine.
Hmm.
We went to a venue and, went and saw a show, and that was fine. Everything was fine. And then the next day, I was being yelled at about how I needed to get over it. And being put down because of that. And, it's my fault that I know these people who are dying. It's like, yes, I went into becoming friends with this person, knowing that they were going to die. Like, and things just got worse and worse and worse to the point where, anything that I had within my own personal success was an issue.
Hmm.
Anything that I could be happy about was not allowed. Any work that I did for him was no longer appreciated. And it just got to the point where things that he was saying and doing, it was just making me sink further and further and further into a whole new depression. And it was like I finally rose above my bullies, and now I'm being bullied again. And
Yeah.
then at the same time, the same bullies from high school were coming back into my life and starting to bully me again. And then they were trying to twist things around. Well, you were bullying me.
A lot of them do that. It's they try to turn it around and, play, that's why you got to be careful, because it's like, when we have people come to us on social media and they're like, I'm being bullied, and sometimes when I investigate it more and I look into it, because we offer those services to help in that way and mediate or whatever it is that they need, and then you look and you're like, you kind of seem like the one that's doing the bullying in some cases, not every case. In many cases, they were getting tormented, and I've talked to more than one off to the brink of suicide and had to work with them in that way, as it's very serious. And but yeah, it's like sometimes you realize that somebody's saying they get bullied, but they're actually doing the bullying. And yes, everybody's a victim, but you got to really be careful and really look into stuff rather than before just accusing and pointing the finger at somebody as the bully. I mean, in your case, obviously, it's very different because there was face-to-face interaction and all that stuff, and you knew who your bullies were, and they were
Yeah,
doing it for years. Online, it's sometimes very difficult to realize who's doing what.
yeah. It was horrible. And, in the same message, this kid told me that I was the one who was bullying him, and then continued to say, I don't associate with disgusting, fat, poor vermin slobs like you. I'm sitting there reading this. I'm like, who are you talking to? Like, and he's telling me how, oh, well, my family is so rich that, you know, we can pay to do all the things that you're doing. I was like, well, thank you. Thank you for telling me how rich your family is. I don't care. I don't pay to do the things that I do. I get asked to do the things that I do because people want me.
Yeah, I'm not really sure how we could pay to do the things that you do really makes sense, but okay.
It really, really doesn't.
But you know, I think that's the thing with bullies sometimes is they just don't know what they're saying, that things just come out of their mouth and it's just whatever to be mean. Half the time doesn't make sense. It's just whatever I can say to you to bring you down 10 notches and abuse you and make you feel like nothing. I mean, it happens in families, it happens in friendships, it happens in romantic partnerships. I mean, it happens in all different types of relationships, and people don't get that. Things have different names, like it's still a form of bullying and hate. They just have different names. Domestic violence, self-bullying, when we talk about addiction and stuff like that, it all goes back to bullying and hate. It might be on yourself or it might be from other people, and there's so many different names, and people, they always love that because they're like, I never thought about that. Like, yes, there's child abuse and there's domestic violence and there's addiction and there's all these different causes that I like to talk about sometimes. And somebody asked me that once, why? And I'm like, because think about it. It might have a different name, but it all goes back to some form of bullying. It's still bullying,
Exactly.
just has a different name.
Exactly. I mean, I was happy that in high school for or really all of my high school career, nobody even dared to get physically abusive with me.
Mhm.
The only time anybody ever did something like that, really, like to the point where it was like scary, was actually the last relationship that I was in a year ago, which was around this time when, my client was driving me crazy. These kids from high school are back in my life. And now my boyfriend tried to actually kill me twice in a week. And, I had marks all over my neck and just, it was a nightmare, absolute nightmare. I was losing my mind. And in this same time, I'm going to Fashion Week again. It was my, I think, third year in a row at that point. And, I was gaining all of this success. I was in a bunch of articles that year. I made the front page of Yahoo. My editor actually called me and she said, so how's the Lupe Gajardo show? I was like, how did you know that that's the show I went to today? And she goes, oh, well, I just went in to log into my email and boom, there's your face right there. Oh, okay.
Kind of like when I had a picture of your face and didn't know it.
Yes.
That's an inside joke, everybody. So I'll tell you a little bit more about that later.
Very soon, actually. We're getting there.
Yeah.
Because, that was awesome. But at that moment, I wasn't sure whether I was supposed to be happy about all of this wild and crazy success that I'm having. And the fact that I'm showing people you can completely do and live your dreams. Or should I be upset about all the drama that's now unfolding in my life? And so, it kind of kicked me down for a little bit, but not fully just yet at this point. And I started throwing my own parties in New York City, where there are always these spectacular rooftop events with a great view, great music, and just, they're awesome. There's always someone famous coming to it, whether it's fashion designers, actors, actresses, models, musicians, you name it. Somebody is going to come.
Somebody's there somewhere. Absolutely, yeah. No, I very much enjoyed the last one that you had.
It's fantastic. And then, I would have to say when it really shut me down was this past summer. which was 2015. And I just completely left the industry. I spent a lot of time up in New Hampshire and kind of just had to get back down to the center of myself because I was no longer speaking to this client that was the musician anymore because things got so bad that I I couldn't handle it anymore. And I was no longer speaking to anybody that I was speaking to at that time. My best friend had just died. My whole life has just been completely rearranged, and I couldn't work at that point. I couldn't. So I completely cut myself off from everybody. I was in the middle. There were no bullies. It was great. And I finally, started coming back in September, which was when I threw my annual rooftop pre-fashion week party. Um, and that was also my birthday. And that was fantastic. It was beautiful sunset, rooftop overlooking Lincoln Center with the Hudson in the background. It was gorgeous. And then I started preparing for my entrance back into the industry and officially announced my re-entrance actually New Year's Day this year, so January 1st, 2016. And since then, I've had another wonderful pre-Fashion Week party, which is where we should have met.
Right? We were close.
You got a picture of me discussing work.
I was right in front of me. We were pretty much right in front of each other, but it was, you know what? It was fun. It was a great night. It was just everybody was all over the place, and it was just it was a fun laugh.
There was so many people there. I did not know what to do with myself.
I know it was, and it was just so funny that when I'm looking at my pictures and I'm like, and he was right there, and I'm right here, and it was just one of those funny things. But you know what? Here we are now. We still met. It was just in a different way, and then we're doing all those things. So it's still, when things are supposed to happen, they happen however they happen. But I still get a good laugh out of that, and I'm like, and there's like one or two pictures right there.
Shortly after that too, I had Fashion Week, and I only did 2 days this year. Normally I do the whole week and everything, but I'm exhausted from doing the whole week every year. So I only did the 2 days.
Right.
It was Thursday and a Friday. And
Mm-hmm.
the Thursday, I spent the whole day at Gotham Hall, which was not technically New York Fashion Week. It was actually Style Fashion Week.
Okay.
And, I saw Milan. He was the first show, and he was breathtaking. Everything. I mean, it was just all these shows. The whole day, I was literally at Gotham Hall the whole day. And, all the other shows after the Milan show, I think it was like 5 more shows I was front row for, and I got to meet a lot of people. There was an open bar.
Well, look at there's always perks. There's always perks
Exactly.
when you're in that industry. But but look at you. Look at what you've. And I know we've had this conversation that you almost can want to say that you want to thank these people in your lives because it only made you stronger.
I have actually. My high school bully, the one who was the kind of the king of the group of kids that used to torment me, I've actually met, because he's never, you would think as people grow up, they are going to reach out to the people that they tormented and made miserable and suicidal, that you would, I don't know, apologize.
Yeah, not always.
But that never happened. So, one of the things when I realized if any of these bullies hadn't pushed me to rise above them and prove them wrong, I would have never done anything. I would probably be just graduating college now. I'm 22 years old. I would be just graduating college having no clue what to do with my life instead of having 6 years of in-field experience on the red carpet. And so I told him that. I straight up told him that. I told him, thank you for being something, 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 something that I'm really not going to say because they're not really nice words. But I thank you for being this bleepity bleep bleep. And
You stood up for yourself, and you got to say what you wanted to say to them, and I think that's a very good step to healing. Because you also want to kill people with the kindness, and it's not about, like, people say, oh, but you're throwing things up to their face. I said, no, you're really not. What you're doing is you're just showing them and you're thanking them, and if they apologize, that's wonderful, because you know what? There's still forgiveness. There's still, sometimes they don't realize what they did. Sometimes a lot of the times they're angry, they need help, they're struggling with things. But the
You know
best
what?
thing of all, yeah, and the best thing of all is that, okay, so you know what? They didn't apologize, but guess what? You got to do what you wanted to do. You got to say what you wanted to say, and you did everything that they were going to tell you couldn't do. And that's what people need to hear.
And it really blows my mind how I went from that tormented kid
Hmm.
to being this red carpet socialite. Like, it's just,
You could have went a completely different direction. So the fact that you went that
yeah,
direction, not
it's,
everybody can say that.
it's really awesome. And, I might not be the person that you're seeing in all the tabloids right now, but I have much more to climb.